She goes on to say in this email that she sent me and gave me this awesome idea for a podcast. In all these cases, success requires planning, preparation, execution of multiple tasks. For example, in a business, she says, you need to create a solid business plan. You always hear me talk about this. Ready, aim, fire. Not ready, fire, aim. Ready, aim, fire. Figure it out. What's that guy's name? Stephen Covey. He says in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, if you want to be an effective person, you got to do the things that Stephen Covey says to do. And that is to begin with the end in mind. That's exactly what my mom's talking about. Ready, aim, fire. Not ready, fire, aim. Not just throwing it out there. Actually, for her, she's been spending a lot of time to launch her podcast. She's been spending a lot of preparation on the website, on who the avatar is, what is the reason for this, how are we going to add value to her avatar, how are we going to make money through it. There's a lot of thought process. There's a lot of shit that happens when we have a podcast. So let me continue on. And she's talking about you want to be able to record, edit all your episodes. You want to manage social media. You got to engage with your audience. By the way, my company, it's called Grow Your Show. The podcast is the podcast on podcasting, but my company is Grow Your Show at growyourshow.com. We actually handle, so you don't have to, but we'll get back to that in a little bit. My mom goes on to say, overall, owning a dog, running a business, or having a podcast all require what? She says commitment. She says responsibility and the willingness to do some of the less glamorous tasks. However, the rewards can be significant. And with careful planning, begin with the end in mind, and execution, you can enjoy a fulfilling and successful experience with whatever you're doing. So let's talk a little bit about your podcast. What's goes around with your show? Let's see. My mom already mentioned it. It's editing the podcast. It's getting the guests. It's recording. It's uploading. It's writing the show notes. And a lot of people hate doing that. It's writing all the show notes. Like if you have a podcast, you have something called the show notes, which it's a description of what people will hear. And you've got to be able to figure that out. And sometimes these tasks, maybe it doesn't smell bad to you, but it's not fun. And we end up procrastinating. You end up procrastinating most likely. If you're anything like me, I'm the best at procrastinating. I remember I had the job of garbage. That was my job at my house growing up with my parents. And my mom and dad, I would drive them nuts because I was always doing it. They were like, hey, today's garbage day. I'm like, I know. I'm going to do it. And they're like, well, can you take care of it? I will. It's not tomorrow yet. I'm good. Right. And so it ended up always being last minute. Same thing with my assignment. Same thing with most things in my life. I was just on a trip out of the country. And when I did that, I had to have my assistant pack my bags for me because I'm like, I don't want to do that. It's taking too long. And so I was like, hey, can you help me? So it worked out. So if you don't want to do the hard thing, then you got to at least hire off the hard thing. So you got to know kind of what those things are for your podcast. We've mentioned a couple of them: editing, cutting out some of the ums and uhs, and some of them you might want to keep in to make sure that you're sounding natural. So you might not want to use those crappy, what are they called? There's these like AI, there's a few of them. And what you end up doing is you go to the AI and you say, cut out all the words that are or cut out all the uhs. And then what ends up happening is it sounds like, because the breath is, because it only has part of the or part of the because it doesn't understand where to cut it out and where to leave it. So it ends up sounding horrible by using that AI. So when you're doing your own, you might not want to cut all of them out. You might want to pick and choose. And that's what my team does.